The recognition of online stuff does very little for me if I can't monetize it in some way. Back to real estate.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today my guest is Ken Pozek of the Orlando market. How you doing, Ken?
What's up, dude? Doing well.
Your name is unique in that we've got a big time movie that just came out that you're featured in.
Oh yeah, Ken. Yeah, I've not heard any Barbie jokes this week. It's the weirdest thing.
I bet not. Well, you've got a cool studio there. For those of you who are not watching but listening, go check out the YouTube because he's got a way cooler setup than I do. Being in Orlando, I always ask the guests before we dig into your story, like what you love about your territory, the land of Disney. What do you know it mostly of the land of Disney, or what is it to you? What is home to you?
Yeah, I mean, so Orlando's home for me now, but I'm not from here, and the reason why we moved here was for the theme parks and a little bit more sun. I'm from Detroit originally, where it snows 7 months out of the year and it's miserable. So so yeah, for us it was theme parks, and you asked like what do I like about our area earlier on, and it was it's inland, so I don't have to worry about hurricanes too much. It's sunny all the time. There's never there's an endless supply of things to do. And so we love calling it home.
What do you love about the real estate in Orlando?
It's diverse. You've got people, clientele from all over the world. We have people that are from Canada, the UK, Brazil. Wildly enough, a bunch of people from Russia divested recently that we helped. And so, yeah, it's been fun. And then you've got the short-term rental market, and then people that are moving here for legit jobs that are here full time. You've got people that want to move here to retire. So it's one of the most diverse economies and places to sell real estate. And it's a lot of fun.
You mentioned the short-term rental market. I, being from Indiana, just south of Detroit myself, the Midwest, those 3 or 4 states right in that area, it seems to be like the vacation, at least in the eastern part of the U.S., likes to go to Florida. And so looking into the rental market and investing, the scary thing to me about Florida is it's so oversaturated, at least from my perspective, and I want to get yours. It's so oversaturated there that they're, locking down on different HOAs, making it harder and harder for like the different areas to buy rental properties. And is it as tough as I'm making it from a Midwesterner, or do you just got to know the right person for the right deal?
Yeah, you got to know the right person, the right deal. I mean, there's plenty of HOAs that are hard no on short-term rentals. And I like that. Like I live in one of those communities where they're like, we do not allow Airbnbs. If we find out, it's a $500 per night fine. I dig that because I don't want people just coming all the time and, using our pool and, it's just different. I'm not looking to live in a hotel. I want to live in a community where I know the people. And so there's like 3 cities that allow it quite a bit. And even the city of Orlando, the great majority, you're not allowed to have Airbnb. You are allowed to rent out like an ADU by the night for like an accessory dwelling unit, something like an apartment over a garage. You're allowed to Airbnb that out, but you have to live in the main building yourself. There's like little rules around that. So it's not as hard as you'd think, although there's builders out here that are purpose-built building short-term rental communities that don't even have mailboxes, and you can't send your kids to school. So if you buy the wrong house or the right house in the wrong neighborhood, you could be in a world of hurt depending on how you want to use it.
Now, are the rules and regulations or laws even as strict on long-term rentals as they are short-terms?
Not really. No, I mean, we're a very investor-friendly state, landlord-friendly state. I think that, I own a bunch of rentals myself, and they're all long-term rentals, and I'm, really happy about it.
Well, Ken, I want to jump into you as the Ken Pozek, the personality. As I hop on Facebook and I go to your profile, the profile says digital creator, even over the real estate side. And I know that, talking in the pre-show, like everything is a funnel. And I think that what I'm curious about is how that works, because, I'm not even convinced that I know everything that goes into considering yourself a digital creator as it pertains to either YouTube or social media platforms. So how did you get into that? And backing up even further, when you first moved to Orlando, what was your play to bust into the real estate market?
Yeah, so I was super old school when we first moved here, because that's how my business was. So I've been in real estate since 2003 in one way or the other. Like literally right out of high school, I was flipping houses and I was an appraiser, and we had a little, just a little flip business. It was fun. And then the market took a dump. If you remember, 2008, 2009 was rough. So I got into real estate sales, like what a time. And I was cold calling expireds for sale by owners and banks. I said, hey, the banks, like, you guys have foreclosures. I want to help. And so built a big business. We did like 40 million, 113 sides in 2016. And it was all like from that kind of stuff. And so I moved here and I'm like, I'm starting over again. I really don't want to have to do the grind. So I bought Zillow and Realtor.com and postcards and radio ads. And I had like this $30,000 a month burn. And I looked up 6 months later and I was selling a couple houses, but like nothing was really catching. And so I'm like, I'm either going to run out of all my money or I'm going to figure something out. And so I went back to cold calling, and a friend of mine was like, hey, while you're doing the cold calling thing, I've been playing around on YouTube and I do these builder tours, and every once in a while somebody calls me. I'm like, no kidding. That sounds awesome. I can do that. So I grabbed my cell phone and I just started doing like little builder tours, walking around. Hey, here's what I think, editing them on iMovie, upload them to YouTube, and nobody called. Like, I'm getting like 2 views. One of them's my mom, and it's terrible. And so, but I committed to doing it. I'm like, I feel like if I commit to doing 100 videos in 100 days, that what I'll learn through that process will teach me something about how to be a better creator. And maybe I can figure this out.
Did you have rules around the videos? Like, did they have to be about homes?
Yeah, they're all around homes. So it was and they were actually way too long tail. For those of you that know like SEO, or those listening, like might know search engine optimization. It was like the Winter Garden Duval model by Ashton Woods was like it was very long tail. It wasn't like these like moving to Florida videos. It was very long tail, because my hope was that people that were interested in buying a new construction house would go online and Google it. My video would be the only one they find, and they would call me. And so, Can
I skip ahead for a second before you go through this process? Because I want people to know, we're going to cheat a little bit and tell people what happened on the other half of the side. The success that I forgot to tell people why they should care about this. You're now doing about $250 million worth of real estate. What is that? 600 deals?
Yeah, just under 600 deals to get
around
there.
600 deals with this massive team, and it all started to back up to what he's talking about right now. So it's just, when the end of the story, is kind of fascinating to see what came out of filming iMovie videos and sending them to your mom.
Yeah, right. So yeah, exactly. So we like to call ourselves now, we're a media company that happens to sell real estate. And so our goal is to get as many people in the top of funnel through our podcast, through our YouTube channel. We've got multiple TikTok and Instagram accounts. We've got a 32,000 person email newsletter that goes out twice a week. And so I've built like a proper media company that our only sponsor is my real estate team, the Pozek Group. And it works really well.
So what does that actually look like in terms of the media company? Who is your client for the media company? Who are you looking for? What are you looking to accomplish other than funneling them to your real estate?
That's it. That's 100%. It's just like, how do we get more eyeballs on our real estate company and our team? And so, so going back to the path of like the YouTube thing. So eventually I figured out people don't really care about model home tours as much as I thought they might. And so I started figuring out like what people do care about. And it's creating educational content that happens to solve a problem that people are going to go online and I solve. That's what YouTube's about. I mean, it's a search engine first and foremost, and then people are getting entertained along the way. And so, shooting like the top 5 neighborhoods in Orlando, the top 3 top 3 reasons why you don't want to move to Orlando. And then obviously I move into why you might at the end. There's all these different things that we've done, and we've been massively consistent. I think we've put out 550 some videos on YouTube now over the past 5 years. And it's our number 1 lead source. We give the cool thing about social media and YouTube in general is that they're so bought into our brand that it's not this massive conversion cycle anymore. They're so far down the funnel that they're like, hey, I've been following you for 3 years. you said, remember 2 years ago on this one video, you said X, Y, and Z. Well, we did that. And because of that, we're calling you. And I'm like, they're committed and they're not.
That's special.
Yeah. Yeah. So it feels like a warm sphere referral every time.
So what's fascinating about YouTube is it was one of the first, it's the second largest search engine behind Google. It came on the scene before all the social media platforms that we use today. And yet it feels like it's been the slowest to actually be something that you build your real estate business around to gain business, right? Am I wrong in saying that?
No, you nailed it. I mean, TikTok's interesting. I've got friends of mine that have millions of followers, but they are getting almost no business from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's addictive because it's fast growth on TikTok and some of these other platforms, Snapchat back in the day. And so they feel like because they've got a lot of followers that they're going to get a lot of business. And that's just not the case. The psyche of a YouTube person is way more low funnel and way more bought in, but it takes a long time. Like the agents don't want to commit to growing 100 subs a month, or you know what I mean? Like just it's I'll probably cross 40,000 subs on YouTube sometime in the next couple of weeks.
What does that mean?
40,000 subs means 6-7 million views and probably, I don't know, at this point, $6 or $7 million in commissions.
Whew. So, like, if I had to break it down, and you're the genius in this space, so help me out here. We've got Facebook. I become friends with somebody. I walk in the same streets they walk. I attend the same churches and go to the same restaurants. And so when I post, algorithms help them be seen a little bit more. That's someone that I actually have local friends that are friends and friends. And slowly I start to realize I need a realtor. That's probably the person that I should call. It's a completely different interaction on YouTube, because I'm guessing like the time that I spend on YouTube, I go to YouTube to search a video about something probably not real estate related. And then reels happen or suggested videos happen. And then I stumble upon you. And if the video is entertaining enough to get past that 3-second mark, I stay with it. And then what about that? I mean, can you actually track a step-by-step process like I just did to how you will convert someone who's never heard of you into a sale?
Yeah. So for me, it's asking for the subscribe. And then my I think where most agents F it up is that they start the video off and they're like, hey, this is Ken Pozek with Keller Williams. And today I'm going to walk you through this house. But before I do, I've been selling real estate for the past 20 years. And if you look at buy or sell a house, I want to be your guy. Like that's
so go for the, yeah.
Right. And so instead it's the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, 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 right hook. It's value, 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 value. And once I've earned your view, asking for the business. And so at the end of my video, my hook is essentially, hey, listen, if you got any value out of today, I want to be your real estate resource of choice. Whether you're looking to buy or sell now or in the future, email me info@pozekgroup.com. Now, info@pozekgroup.com, you will not find on a website. You will only find that on my YouTube channel. So I know with certainty.
So you know where it's coming. Yeah.
I know where the business is coming from. Now, most of the time, those emails come with a brick, like an email brick of, we've been watching you. You said this video, this is what we're thinking. This is why we're moving. And they just tell me their whole life story. So I know that it came from YouTube, but if it's not super, super detailed, I still know because it came to that email box.
That's fascinating. So you find that the example you just gave was a relo. Is that a bulk of your YouTube leads is a relo?
Yeah. So you shoot content for the client you want. And so if you want to be a luxury agent, you go shoot luxury content. And if you want to be a luxury listing agent, well, then you need to go convince somebody that has luxury listings for you to do that. Or if you have them already and you just want to expand your business, you can do that. But for us, we kind of focus in on that relocation niche. So partnering with businesses that help people move here, showing those businesses our content and saying like, hey, listen, we actually specialize in this. And then also organically grouping up the people from YouTube. And so a year ago, I started getting a little bit more purposeful to try to contact people locally, though, because I do want more seller leads and more people that are moving within Orlando. So I launched a second video a week and where I go live here in the studio. And it's a wild, dude. I'll go live every Thursday at 7:00. I'll have hundreds of people come listen to me talk about Orlando, real estate, theme parks, living in Orlando. And through that, I've created this local tribe where it's a lot of locals that come in and talk about their favorite donut shop, their favorite biking trail, their favorite, whatever it is locally. And so now our business is starting to get more, I'd say it's 65% buyers, 35% sellers.
This is fascinating. I want to go back to something you said about TikTok. You said that TikTok is fast paced, it's fast growth, but yet your friends that you have that have millions of followers are not converting them. Is that something that is just, it's the fault of the platform? Or I guess what I'm curious is, if you took over their profile, would you be able to figure out how to convert that into business?
I think so. I mean, so the ones that I'm talking about in general they're real estate agents, but they got famous by dancing.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to hire the agent that's the best TikTok dancer. I'm just not going to. I might be entertained. I might laugh. I might give them a thumbs up, but I'm not going to call that person when it's time to buy or sell. And so for us, like we launched TikTok, I don't know, 8 months ago. We got 38,000 followers there, which is not a lot on TikTok standards, but I'm getting noticed out and about, right? Like people are like, "Oh, you're the TikTok guy." And I'm like, "I'm actually the YouTube guy, but yeah, I guess I'm on TikTok as well."
That's funny.
So it's much more brand recognition than it is call to action. It's also very different than Instagram because TikTok is not a DM culture. Like
Right.
you copy a TikTok and text a link to your friends. You're typically not forwarding it to them into the app. At least
That's
I'm not.
fascinating.
Not that I've talked to other people. Instagram.
Is that because of the ease of doing it?
I think so. I think that it's set up by my friends are constantly texting me TikToks instead of DMing me on TikTok. And so it's hard to create relationship when that person's not staying on platform.
Yeah.
And so for me, on YouTube, I figured this out. I'm like, "Hey, listen, if you want to continue the conversation, follow me over on Instagram. It's at Ken Pozek." The moment I started doing that, we started adding significant amount of follows. And so they will find me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram, and then DM me on Instagram. So that becomes a lot of our funnel where I'm literally screenshotting those conversations when I finally get them to say what their number and email is. And I forward that over to our inside sales department. They reach out, warm it up, and then pass it off to one of our agents.
You mentioned jab, 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 right hook, Gary Vaynerchuk's give value first, and then go for the right hook, which is the asking for the sale. If part of what he says about in that book is some of the value is non-business related content. So if I were to go to your YouTube channel, what percentage of your videos is around Orlando real estate versus either your personal side or something unrelated to real estate, if any?
So it's sprinkled in every video. Every video has something to do with real estate. But like I did a video the other day that really did very well. It was, there's this area of Orlando. If you've ever visited here, it's right outside the parks. It's called the 192 area. And it's very touristy, t-shirt shops, tchotchke, old Florida. It's kind of a dive. But if I dove into the permitting and I dove it into the development board for the area, and they're investing $4 billion along this road. And so I just did a video. I'm like, "Hey, listen, if you're looking to buy an investment property here, or you already live here and you just are excited about the growth, I'm going to walk you through where this $4 billion is being spent up and down the road." Now, does that have to do with real estate specifically? Come buy a house from me? No, but it positions me as the authority for all things Orlando. And that way, when it's time to buy or sell, I've filled the gap between when they're looking to buy or sell. That 7 to 10 years now, when people finally buy a house and they're ready to sell it, I want to be the guy they think about the entire time.
This is all very fascinating. Would you say that now that you're, like I said, on Facebook, you're a digital creator before you're a realtor. Now I'm guessing with the numbers that we were talking about earlier, real estate is pretty lucrative, probably your number one source. But I mean, once you get a certain amount of followers, you can also make money off of the social media following. Is that something that you're looking to grow?
Yeah. I mean, so I'll put it out there. I get roughly 180,000 views a month on YouTube, and they reward me with a whopping $700 check. It's not, I'm not trying to get rich off that. I mean, I use that to go pay salaries and invest back into the company. For me, real estate is the most lucrative thing that I could do. I'm not the guy that's trying to go sell courses. You and I were talking in the pre-show. Like, I feel like what makes our team different is that we actually sell a lot of real estate. like, again, I know a lot of realtors with huge followings online that actually don't do the business.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's been, how do we just funnel people back to the real estate company? And for us, that's where we're winning.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about sprinkling real estate into everything that you do. And I think about the realtor who's a dancer on TikTok that gets 1 million views. I wonder what percentage of videos they would have to convert their profile to sprinkle in real estate or become the real estate quote unquote dancer in order to make that happen. And you know, what's funny is it's kind of addicting. Like, I've been in sales a long time, and I've been in sales companies where I'd rather get the trophy and recognition than another dollar. And that was before I had a family. Now priorities have changed a little bit, but I wonder if it's the same thing for the TikTok star who gets this fame and notoriety, not a single dollar from it, maybe down the road, but it's this hype and this recognition, this, the eyeballs, they get so addicting that you actually don't care that you're not selling as much real estate. Do you think that's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a recognition trophy industry, unfortunately. And so it's everybody's patting themselves on the back for what they did 20 years ago. And I'm just like, just trying to set records this year and then also take care of my family at a really big level. And my people, like my team is my family. And like, I'm so like obsessed with seeing them win at this point. And so for me, the recognition of online stuff does very little for me if I can't monetize it in some way. Back to real estate.
So what's the podcast look like for you? What is the content of the podcast? Where can we find the podcast?
Yeah, the podcast is the Orlando Reel. It's everywhere podcasts are available. It's really my Thursday night lives. We actually just rip that audio from the live, and then the next day we post it on to go on Audible and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those good places. And we just change the intro, outro, and it's because it's very like, it's news. I'm sitting there. I just sit down for 45 minutes, and I'll typically prepare 6 or 7 different localized news stories. And how does it pertain to people that live in Orlando? So if it's something that like our governor did, and Disney decides to back out of their $2 billion campus here, how does that affect Orlando? And then I have hundreds of people watching that are interacting with me live. And so it makes for good audio. And I started ripping it into a podcast because people were like, oh yeah, I watched your live back while I was driving to work. That sounds dangerous. So like, why don't I just turn this into a podcast and go it that way?
A man of the people, looking out for their best interests when they are not. So, okay. So then this is all starting to make sense. If I were to go and build a business in a different city, what I am curious about is, do you think Orlando in itself being such a fascinating, I mean, it's the home of Disney, it's the home of theme parks. It's in Florida where there's, your driving distance to beaches. It's a hotter, part of the country than, other part. I'm not going to name names. But even in Indianapolis, we've got some pretty cool things, with the Speedway and stuff like that. Do you think what you're doing can be duplicated in any real estate market?
I do. And here's why. Like, I don't have a massive following. I've got like almost 40,000 people on YouTube, which to a creator is actually a pretty small channel. Like, I've got friends of mine that are not in real estate that have millions of followers on all of these different platforms. And they kind of like laugh. And I'm like, well, I'm actually making a lot more money than you guys are. So the thing is though, you don't need a massive following. You just need a big following in your town. And the other cool thing about all of this is like, even if you start focusing in on and just shifting your paradigm on, I want to be the digital mayor of wherever I live. Like if I move back to Detroit's not the sexiest place to live, but I could have endless amount of things to talk about, because if there's news happening, you can talk about that from a real estate agent's perspective. And here's what that does. It makes your sphere respect you more and want to tune into your stuff more. Instead of dancing on TikTok, you're bringing them value. And so I think regardless of where you live, you can do this and really get known. And so this is the cool thing. Like, our agent referrals are through the roof. Why? Because like, I talk about Orlando all the time. I'm synonymous with Orlando. People aren't like, oh, I'm not posting my new listings. I'm not posting my accolades. All of these other things don't matter. I just want to let people know, like on Facebook, for example, I've got 5,000 friends. Most of them are realtors from outside of Orlando. So what do I talk about on Facebook? Orlando. It's just constantly like, hey, here's what I'm doing in Orlando with my family. Here's what's going on in Orlando. And so it makes your sphere better, your agent referral business better. You get organic leads. Like, it solves a multitude of sins.
I am curious about YouTube and why you chose that as the main source of your videos, where I had a local podcast before we started a Real Producers podcast, and we found that even through Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube, the number one place where we got views and listens was Facebook videos. And from that, you can engage with like the actual Facebook page. You can track different things. You can friend people and grow that following. Yet you found your start and continue to kind of channel everything through YouTube. Why is that?
I think that you look at the platform and where it's headed. For one, it's a search engine, so I know I'm getting in front of the right people at the right time in the funnel. But then you look at what they're doing. So they're introducing shorts, which are finally starting to get like better looking in the feed and starting to get a lot more virality. They do have the community tab, which it's wild. I post a photo in the community tab and I get a ton of engagement. And they've got the podcast tab now to where if I go live, it saves it back as a podcast. So I think that where YouTube's going, to me, it's going to be kind of the everything content app. And that's where the majority of eyeballs are. And for me, because I've been consistent this long, I know we're winning. Like everybody else will try YouTube the way that they try farming or they try calling and they give up. So for me, I feel like I have an asset that I own. That's not as big of a whim as when Zuck decides to turn off my engagement.
Do you ever think that, we mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk a couple of times in this podcast. He started off operating his father's wine business, liquor store, essentially. And now I would guess most people don't even know that he even started there. They just see him as the media giant. Right. Do you ever feel like, getting back to what we were talking about with accolades and recognition, do you ever feel like this thing could get big enough to where real estate isn't your main gig and you actually do go into a media type role?
No, so that I don't want to answer that super fast. I definitely have plans outside of real estate. I think my path looks a little bit different than others that way. So I think many people, they want to grow a big business so that they can go sell a course and then they can grow a media something or another, right? For me, my next 3 to 5 years is growing a media company that just completely dominates Orlando, regardless if people are looking at theme parks or real estate or what it is, that we are in their life some way. And the cool thing about Orlando is that I can lean in that way because, like you mentioned, we're like an attraction city. Like people visit here and they also want to move here. So for me, it's going really, really deep into Orlando. I think I can get 2 to 4% market share, sell 2,000 houses a year, get about $1 billion in sales. And so that's kind of my path, all from the media side.
Well, I've got time for one more question. If there's anything that you'd like to share on this platform, feel free. In terms of what's next for the real estate market, it's you mentioned getting into the business in 2008, and that's actually when I got into sales too. You got into real estate sales. I imagine you hear a lot of excuses that you kind of laugh at, seeing as how you've built a business and pretty much every single decline. We're in one right now. A lot of excuses being made. A lot of thinning of the herd is going to happen in the next year or so. For those who are sticking it out and deciding to find hope in this industry, what would you say?
I think, down markets are where some of the biggest money's made. I honestly hated 2021. It was up until 2021, it was my best year ever. But 2022 was rough, like Q3, Q4, and yet we still grew. And I think that if you should actually be encouraged in down markets because people are attracted to value. All of a sudden, they're not selling their house to Open Door and Zillow and, or attracted to 1% listing fees and stuff like that. They're like, oh crap, the market's tougher. I need to hire a professional that actually knows what the hell they're doing. And so to me, I love, I win in those markets. And so I think we're in for a rough Q4. I think we're going to see another 0.25% bump this week. And, we're going to see an even farther pullback on the amount of buyers in the market. And so it's going to be the ones that double down on their marketing efforts, double down on their prospecting efforts, that are systematizing this thing out, that are going to win. And then you're right. I think we're going to see a thinning of the herd over the next 6 to 18 months, of which I am welcoming.
Yeah, I bet. And then the rest can join your team, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Everybody who's left, just come join the team.
That was Ken Pozek in the Orlando market. You can find him on Orlando Real, as well as YouTube, and eventually TikTok, where he may dance, but mostly talk about real estate. Thanks for joining the show, Ken.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time on the Real Producers Podcast. Until then, make sure you go to realproducersmag.com to check out how you can get involved in your local market, maybe be featured and attend one of the private events. See you next time.